Oh, good God. I'm having so many technical difficulties tonight. I'm not giving up though. I'm absolutely not giving up. I'm getting this freaking training out to you guys if it kills me tonight. Wow. If you're logging in for the first time, the reason I'm looking so flustered is because this is the third time now that I'm trying to get this live video working for you guys. And it's frustrating me to death. So I've just turned my internet off. I've switched to 4G. I think we're all good now. Let me know if you can hear me. Type in the chat box. Let me know if you're live. If you're watching on replay, let me know if you're watching on replay. Let me know where you're logging in from and just say hi and tell me if you can hear me. Because by the sounds of it, you guys couldn't before. Edmonda, I can see that you're there. Anna, hey, how are you? Okay, it looks like people are getting logged in now and are able to hear me. I'm so sorry. This never happens. Right, I'm going to cut straight to the chase because I don't want to keep you waiting. I was meant to start 13 minutes ago. I hate being late. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for letting me know that you can hear me. Okay, so money blocks. So money blocks are something that are really important to me in terms of sharing ways around them and how to break through them, because I know how it feels to live with them. I know how certain beliefs around money, therefore feelings and actions around money, can seriously inhibit our ability to achieve wealth. I get that. I've been there. I've experienced them. We're going to go through some of them tonight, but what I want you to bear in mind is that this stuff, money blocks, this isn't about ever being the finished article. It's not about ever being in a space where you don't have them and you're fixed, because I'm not telling you actually that you're broken. I'm just saying that we all have beliefs that don't serve us, and when we have them about money, it prevents us from accumulating the money that we could if we didn't have those beliefs. That's basically money mindset, because beliefs form basically our reality in every area of our life. So if we have negative money beliefs, associations with money, blocks that we're not even aware of, they inhibit our ability to get more success financially. And I'm really passionate about this stuff because as you get to a new level, you experience a new devil. You might be somebody on this call that's going from 10k a month to 20k a month and you're hitting a glass ceiling on your income and you're just stuck. You might be somebody that's going from 500 a month to 1,000 a month. It's the same, it's exactly the same. There might be different beliefs, they might manifest themselves in different ways, they might be different upper limits, but there will be some, there are always some. I've experienced upper limits throughout the entirety of my career as an entrepreneur. No doubt I'll continue to experience them, and that's why I'm always working on this stuff and why I'm always sharing this stuff, because I know the importance of it. So if you are somebody that is stuck, not achieving your worth financially, in a position where you know for certain that you experience scarcity. Hey Christine, you know for certain that you experience fear, anxiety, you find yourself worrying about money, you find yourself thinking about money in a negative way, you find yourself making decisions financially that you know aren't smart for you or your business. If any of these things are ringing true, maybe you've been stuck at a certain income for a while and you can't quite see past it. Maybe you set goals and you look at them and think, I can't do that, I can't achieve those, wealth's not meant for me, yada, 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 then this is for you. Now what I want to do is I want to take you back in time a little bit, and I want to look at where these beliefs come from, because if we can understand where something comes from, we can then understand how, it's the first part in understanding how we can fix it. Because it's awareness. Awareness creates change. If we're self-aware, we can create change within ourselves. If we're aware about our beliefs, we can change them. If we're aware about our finances and where we're going wrong, we can change it. So it's all really, really relevant. But we don't just want to look at where beliefs come from in terms of your childhood, but where do they actually come from as a society? That's what I want to look at today. Because when you can recognise that they're just beliefs and you can see where they come from, they lose their power over you. And I want these beliefs to loosen their power grip that is around your throat, making you feel nervous, worried, scared on the subject of money right now. Now, when I talk about knowing where they come from, the reason I say this is because beliefs are passed down. When we're children, we start to form these beliefs based on what the people around us are saying, the way they think, the way they feel, just certain words they might use to describe money and the words they might use to describe wealth or even struggle or what they feel is possible for them, you take on as your own and all of that stuff. But where do they get it from, and where did they get it from, and where did they get it from, and why is it that the beliefs that we have around money that inhibit us from reaching success are the same beliefs that everybody presents with? Because that's true too. They're the common ones that come up over and over again. And having been a coach to hundreds of female entrepreneurs and listened to the patterns that come up, there are a few that come up over and over again. And what I wanted to talk about tonight is, where do they come from and why do they hold so much power over us? And to do that, we have to go back a little bit and we have to look at the economic ages. Now, if you've seen some of my trainings on this stuff about why the time is absolutely now to be building an online business, and why we should be learning now about personal branding, lead generation, online, Facebook advertising, and all of the things that can make you stinking rich. And the reason I know this is because if you look back over the economic ages, you'll see that people who played to the economic age they were in developed outrageous wealth every time. So for example, if you lived in the agricultural age, then you would make money from land. The people that made outrageous amounts of wealth were the landowners. In the industrial age, it was the people who owned the machines, the people that owned the factories that made outrageous money. Right now, it's the people that own digital assets, and people that are making the best out of the internet and social media. And because that's the time we're living in. But these ages can also tell us a lot about where money beliefs come from. And that's what I want to look at tonight. So let's look at the agricultural age. The agricultural age has a lot to answer for in terms of money beliefs. And you might be able to relate to this. If we look back, this is the first economic age that there ever was, right at the beginning of time. The Garden of Eden, the agricultural age is where everything began, and the only way to make money was from land, right? So you were either a landowner and you were wealthy, or you were a peasant working on the land for very little. There wasn't much in between. Landowner, working on the land, that was it in the agricultural age. So of course the wealthy stayed wealthy in terms of family, and the poor stayed poor back then. The only way to achieve wealth was to be born into it and inherit land. If you were born into poverty, then you died in poverty because you could never accumulate enough money working on land to buy land and become wealthy. Therefore, you didn't have new money back then. It was all stayed in the family. It didn't matter how hard working you were. It didn't matter what type of character you had, it was totally about your family name. And that was the agricultural age. So what belief did that really instill into us as human beings that could then have been passed down? Well, the thing that really stands out, and the thing I hear over and over again, is the belief that wealth's not meant for me. Type in the chat box or give me some hearts if you've ever thought, maybe wealth's not meant for me. Maybe I'm not one of those people. One of those people that drive those cars and live in those houses. And maybe you formed your opinion on that based on what your mum and dad earn, what your nan and granddad earn, whether your family have a track record of being wealthy. If you've ever looked around you and used that as a benchmark to what's possible for you, then it means that's a clue that you could have bought into the idea that you have to be born into wealth to have wealth or be worthy of wealth. Let me know if you can relate. Let me know if this is something you've ever thought yourself. Someone's just said that my sound's gone. Can you type in the chat box and let me know if I've got sound? Because I'm not sure whether it's your end or whether it's my end. If it's just one person, then it's absolutely their end. And then I know that I've not got a problem and I don't have to stop talking again. It should be fine now because I switched to 4G. So the agricultural age really embedded that belief. Now, the reason this is important to get your head around, guys, is because your beliefs are just a product at some point of somebody else's thinking and an impression that's been put upon you, or maybe an experience that you've had that's left you with a belief at some point. But those have to come from elsewhere, right? They have to. So when we look at, oh, thank you guys, thank you for letting me know my sound's okay. So when we look at these and really break them down, like let's think of a really simple one, for example, like women, you may believe that you can't earn as much as men, for example, because it was only a very short time ago that we look at maybe our grandparents and our nans, our grandmas, would have been cooking, cleaning, looking after children. They wouldn't have been expected to go out to work. It would have been very rare that women had a career, and the men would have been the people bringing in the money. And in terms of finances, we were quite disempowered as women when it came to earning money. And in some cultures, it's still like that. So that would be a belief that you really took on as your own, and it would definitely see you acting out and playing out behaviours in line with that belief. Because if you're someone that doesn't believe women can be wealthy, you're not waking up every morning going, fuck me, let's make some money, let's be wealthy. What can I do today to be one step closer to riches? You're not thinking like that because you don't believe it's possible for you. Therefore, you're not taking action in line with someone with that belief. And it's the same when we look at the agricultural age and being born into wealth being the only way to be wealthy. That belief will have been passed down somewhere. And it was just a cultural, it was just an age, it was just society, it was just the way things were back then, because that's where the opportunity was back then, was all in land. But it wasn't true for today. But these things get embedded in, and if you thought it, or you've heard somebody, just listen to other people's beliefs. They're fascinating. Like, you might hear someone say something like, yeah, well, my family have never had money. Our family just doesn't have money. It's not us. We're not like those people. I've heard people say stuff like that. That comes back to this era where that was true, but it's not true anymore. You can be anybody. You can be born in any situation with any amount of money, and you can change it. And that became possible like a few years on in the industrial age. That was where the middle class were born, which I'm going to move on to now. So the industrial age. So this is where we shifted a lot in terms of what was possible, because suddenly it wasn't about land anymore. Now it's about machines. And what you'll notice about the economic ages is that every age makes way for a new one, because it was all about land and growing, and then those machines and factories come in to turn what's being grown on the land into products. And this was in the industrial age. So in the industrial age, things started to really shift now, because for the first time ever, there was a middle class. No longer was it just the landowners and the people working on the land and nothing in the middle. There was now this middle class of people that worked for the people that owned the machines, that worked for the people that owned the factories, that earned a decent income. They weren't poor, they weren't super rich either, but they've now got disposable income, and that's this middle class. So now it is possible in the industrial age, suddenly possible for you to be born poor but die wealthy. You can make your own wealth now. It was the first time we heard the term new money. And there was this negativity in new money for a little bit. And again, this might be a belief that you've got, where for some reason new money wasn't as good as old money. It was kind of, it was almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a bit common to be new money. You had to come from a long line of wealthy people to be real wealth. That was something that kind of went on in the industrial age. It didn't matter how much you broke your balls and you were resilient and you made, you were self-made and did everything from scratch, you were still new money, and that had a negative connotation. So you might feel like, even if you're wealthy right now, that you're new money, and you're still not like those people that come from money, wasn't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. That makes you different. That means you can't get to another level. That might be a belief that you've taken on as your own. Again, absolutely not true, because it was just part of the way society was at that point. But also in the industrial age, this is where the rat race was really formed, because in the industrial age, the working week was formed. The kind of Monday to Friday 9-to-5 time week was formed. The rat race was formed in the industrial age. And what's really interesting about this is it's formed so much of our beliefs. The industrial age has formed so much of our money blocks and our money beliefs, because, if you've ever looked at yourself and thought, as an entrepreneur, do I work hard enough? Do I need to be working 9 in the morning till 6 at night, Monday to Friday, to be working hard enough? If you've ever measured your own work ethic based on what you would be doing if you were in a job, you're taking on beliefs from the industrial age. Because before then, there was no 9-5, there was no expectation of what the working week looks like. It was just another belief. Yet I see entrepreneurs all of the time burning out because they have this belief that long hours equals money, long hours equals wealth. The harder I work physically, the more money I can accumulate. Does it? That might have been true in the industrial age if you worked on machines or in factories, but is it true today in a world of digital assets and passive income and residual income? Do we need to study something different to get a different result? I've been guilty of this. When I left the corporate world, I totally measured my self-worth based on how many hours I worked in the day. Like that told me whether I should be, for example, getting up at a certain time, whether I should be taking breaks at a certain time. As an entrepreneur, I try to kind of remove that corporate lifestyle and place it into entrepreneurship and expect for that to see me succeed, but it's not true. And it sees you burning out, and it sees you working hard in the wrong places and exchanging time for money. Whereas actually the real route to wealth isn't how much can I charge and demand for every hour that I work, it's how much can I get paid for every hour that I'm not working, when I'm sleeping, when I'm lying on the beach. That's where real wealth comes from. It comes from passive, so we need to be studying something differently. But if we carry that belief, it will see us doing the wrong things with the wrong mindset, exchanging time for money, not thinking like an entrepreneur. So that's really, really important. So the other thing that I guess was formed in the industrial age is this is where we see people working really, really hard because the rat race was formed, the working week was formed, benefits like pensions, etc. The system was formed in the industrial age. So this is where the other belief that can kick in, that like if I don't work a certain amount of hours, I'm lazy and I don't deserve success. If I'm not working the traditional, I must be lazy, and then we start having this guilt trip on ourselves and beating ourselves up for not working hard enough. It's not about working hard. I work less hours than I've ever worked throughout my career right now and earn way more money. And it's because I now know the belief I had was wrong. It's not about how many hours you work determining on how much money you make. There is no direct correlation with that. Think about it. Every single one of you on this call know people that work their fingers to the bone and they work all the hours God sent and they're knackered all the time and they've got no money left at the end of the month. We all know those people, right? You probably also know people, even if not in person, in your actual close circle, but you'll know people that seem to be having an incredible time all of the time, travelling and working very little, yet they earn loads and appear to have loads of money and a great lifestyle. So that tells us that it's not true that loads of hours equals loads of money. So we have to let go of that belief to get to the next level. And I recognised this when I got to like that 6-figure mark, because I was just bouncing my head up against the upper limit. I couldn't get past 6 figures. I just couldn't get past it because I'd still got that mentality of work hard, earn more, work long hours, earn more. And it only took me so far, and then I recognised that I've got to change that belief and do something different to get up to multiple 6 figures and 7 figures, because you reach a point where you can't work anymore. You can't work any harder. So that was the industrial age and where some of that will come from. And you'll recognise this in your own family as well. Like if you're around people that say things like, you'll always be all right if you just work hard and it'll always pay you back, or get a job and work hard, get your head down and work hard. Or might hear people talking about they've got no work ethic, they're lazy, or it's just drummed into you and passed down through the generations. The distribution age. The distribution age is really interesting because this is where we shifted economically from the people in the factories and the machines owners, the owners of the factories and the machines making all the money, to suddenly the retail outlet owners making all the money. Because if the factories are pumping out all this stuff and there's now this middle class that's been created that's got money to spend, consumerism is formed and suddenly people have got money to spend, so retail fills that gap and says, here you go, spend it on this. And in the distribution age, that's where we saw a lot of people getting really rich that were in the distribution of products. MLM, multi-level marketing, network marketing, was formed in the distribution age. But here's again what happened is it's hard work. Give me some hearts if you've ever worked in retail or been part of a network marketing company, or been in a business where you're moving product to the end consumer, give me some hearts, you'll know that it's hard work. It's real hard work, huge sacrifice, long hours. And if you've been in those environments to work, you'll have heard things said like, you need to, in retail, I can remember being told things like, it was just expected of me, because I was a manager, it's expected of me to come in the morning, leave late at night, not expect extra money for it. It was my duty as a manager, it was part of my role, it was an obligation that I had to fulfill. I can remember being network marketing and hearing people saying things like, and I still have a network marketing business, by the way, I absolutely love network marketing, I'm not running it down, but you will have been subjected to messages like, you've got to work harder than most people are prepared to, so you can have a life that most people will never have. You need to work till you're bleary-eyed and do what people just would never do, because you're different, you're a rare breed. Keep going. And you're subjected to that. And this was all born out of the distribution age, because it was true then. Product businesses, retail businesses, hard work, long hours, not true now. Big sacrifice, huge amounts of work does not equal wealth anymore. It's not true. Am I saying it's easy and you don't have to work hard to be wealthy? No, I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying that it's not as hard as it used to be in terms of having to work really, really ridiculous long hours and make massive sacrifice, and it's the reason people don't try, so just stop believing it. I've heard people say things like, I chose to not be wealthy. Like, I would much rather be with my family, I would much rather have balance, I'd much rather travel, I'd much rather be happy than pursue wealth. Like, you have to make a choice. You don't have to make a choice. I have time with my family, I have an incredible lifestyle, I travel the world, and I earn 7 figures. It's not a choice, guys, but it is if you decide to have a belief that it's a choice. That comes from the distribution age, because that was the mentality then, because it was true. It's not true anymore. We can do business in different ways. We can be creative. We can build passive residual incomes online through digital assets and be smart with personal branding and marketing and lead generation, so that you can, once the business is set up, wind down and earn more. You can do that, that's possible for you. So don't buy into it's hard and huge sacrifice to be wealthy, because it really doesn't have to be. And the last one I want to share with you, really common limiting belief around money that comes up, that I believe was born in the tech age, was that you have to be smart academically to be wealthy. You have to be a certain IQ, you have to have certain grades to be financially well off. And the reason I think that kind of came about is because, you know, in the tech age, this is the first time ever, that it wasn't about owning land or machinery or even the distribution outlets for the product. It was about knowing something. That's what made you wealthy, because the internet came into play, and the internet was the future. And if you knew about computers, you had the ability to make a lot of money, because you could sell your service, your knowledge. It's the first time that we could like exchange money for knowledge and not a physical product, which suddenly made it easier to make money, and it made it less strenuous, but it meant that anybody could, because anybody can learn something. Anybody can learn something that's valuable and that other people will pay for. And in the tech age, you've got millionaires popping up that were like 15, 16 years old millionaires that have just created software because they've chose to focus on the right thing at the right time. But then this limiting belief pops up that you've got to go to university and you've got to be academically educated to be able to be wealthy. And that's something else that people carry around. I don't know enough. I'm not smart enough. And again, give me some hearts or comment if you've related to any of these beliefs. There are so many more that come from so many more places. I could go on and on and on. Let's talk about what to do with them. Step one is recognise that these are things that are passed down through a society because of the climate we were living in at that time. It might have been true, but it doesn't mean that it's true anymore. That's the first thing. Recognise that. Recognise that when somebody that's of a different generation says something to you, they're talking from their experience and their time, or maybe from somebody else's time that's passed it on to them, but it doesn't make it true. That's the first step. Always ask yourself, when you hear yourself saying something negative that's holding you back, is it true, and where does it actually come from? Is it true today? Where does it actually come from? That's the first question we can ask ourselves. And that's a powerful question. Questions are powerful. Our reality right now is a result of the questions we've asked ourselves, and therefore the answers we've received and the action that we take. You know, whenever I'm coaching, the women that I'm coaching and they come up against a problem, I start asking the right questions, because when I ask questions, I know we can come up with any answer. And this is a really powerful question with money blocks. Where does this come from? And is it true today? And the answer might be, no, it's not true. I don't know if it's true, and you might have to do some more research. Or, yeah, actually it is true. Very rare though, very rare will it be, yeah, it's true. It's true and it's out of my control and I can't be wealthy. I have never met anybody, and I bet you haven't too, that has a legitimate, real reason that is true why they can't be wealthy and live the life that they absolutely love. Never met anyone, never. Regardless of background, disability, culture, race, sex, I have never met anybody that has a legitimate reason for not being able to pursue wealth. They might have beliefs that are standing in the way, but they can all be changed. The first step in changing them is asking ourselves that question. And then we ask ourselves, how is this belief showing up for me? How is it showing up for me? When I'm really honest with myself, what can I recognise in my behaviour, thoughts, actions that represent this belief? So like, when I was at that 6-figure ceiling that I couldn't break through, I recognised that the belief that was holding me back was that you needed to work hard and make massive sacrifice and work long hours to be wealthy. That was the belief. And I knew that because I was working myself into the ground and I was experiencing these bursts of activity where I felt on fire and I was seeing a peak and then I was burning out. Peak, burnout, and that was the cycle I was on. And it was horrific. And because of that cycle, I was just hitting glass ceiling. And I had to say to myself, what is the belief that's causing this behaviour? And it was that. It was that I have to work hard, massive sacrifice. Is it true and is it true today? And I look around me and go, no, it's not true. Because I know people, I can think of people that have amazing lives, that aren't bashing their head on the 6-figure mark and have more downtime than me and more balance than me. I know that exists. Therefore, it exists for me. So the next thing we ask ourselves is, what action do I need to take right now that's totally different to the action that I've been taking because of this belief? What action do I need to do? If I didn't have this belief, what would I do differently without this belief? And when I asked that, I started to come up with things like I'd take more downtime. I wouldn't allow myself to reach burnout. I'd have more time for me, more self-care. I'd be smarter, more productive. I'd think of ways to leverage. I'd think of people to hire to make my life easier. I'd be thinking on a very different scale if I believed that I could have time and money. I'd make different decisions. So I'm going to choose to believe something different. What am I going to choose to believe? I'm going to choose to believe that I can have time and I can have money. And I made it my mantra. I'd walk around the house like a crazy person going, I have all the time in the world and all the money in the world. I have all the time in the world and all the money in the world. I have all the time in the world and all the money in the world. And suddenly I start to think different. I start to make different decisions because I start to catch myself when I'm like tired and it's my day off tomorrow and I'm penciling things in to do. Whoa, no, hold on a minute. Let's not do that. Because if I had a belief that I had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, then I wouldn't be flogging myself tomorrow. I'd be making a different decision. So I'll take the day off. Suddenly I'm more creative. Suddenly I'm more inspired. Suddenly I've got more energy to give because I'm happier. I'm well rested. Suddenly I'm hiring people and my business is growing and I'm doing less because the belief has to change first. It has to. So let's recap. Where do beliefs come from? Society. They're ingrained in. In fact, they're needed really in society. If everybody believed they could be entrepreneurs and really believed it and went after it, the economy would implode, society would implode, there'd be nobody doing the jobs that we want them to do, that everybody else wants them to do. So beliefs serve the community, the economic climate to a degree. But that you got to recognise that that's what they are. If you're not happy fitting into that system, being in a job, and you want to go after what you want and be an entrepreneur and live a totally different life, then you got to recognise that's where they come from. So that's the first step, recognise they come from somewhere, they're not true. Ask ourselves, how is it showing up for me? What decisions am I making in line with that belief that's stopping me from getting to the next level? And what action am I going to take differently? What mantra do I need that's different? And that's just to scratch the surface on some of the common beliefs that come up. Massively complex topic and that I love talking about. The relationship with money that you have. Like if you're squirming when I talk about money, I'm criticised sometimes for posting about money. I don't care. I don't care because I know that's a reflection of the people's money mindset that are criticising me. And that will show up in their bank balance, not mine. And I'm going to be talking so much more about this stuff going forward because it's coming up constantly. People are crying out for help with it, and that means that I need to talk about it more. So keep your eyes peeled, because this relationship with money stuff, I'm going to be doing so much work around this, especially from January onwards, and providing a space for you guys to come and hang out with me and learn way more about this and do some really deep exercises on it with me. So keep your eyes peeled, and thank you guys for logging in. Don't forget, let me know if you're live by giving me a hashtag live replay if you're logging in on replay, and where you're logging in from, and any feedback you've got on this stuff that you're happy to share in the chat box. Love to hear from you. Lots of love. Enjoy your Sunday.